Now, South Africans are all too aware of the scourge of gender-based violence, and government has highlighted it as a priority. But are we, as a nation, failing the women who are trapped in abusive relationships, sometimes tortured and sometimes killed? Well, UN experts say that South Africa's failure to tackle domestic violence has resulted in the violation of women's fundamental rights. In a report, the UN Committee on the Elimination of Discrimination against Women says the evidence shows the scale of violence, including femicide, is alarmingly high in South Africa. And alternatively, the low levels of prosecution and conviction mean that survivors have been exposed to repeated abuses. The committee is made up of 23 members who are independent human rights experts from around the world. They don't represent any party or state. Let's discuss now. We're joined by Dr. Lesley Ann Foster, who is a board member of the GBV Response Fund established by the President. She's also the CEO of the Masimanyane Women's Rights Group, who conducted some research that informed the submission to this committee. Thank you for being with us, Doctor. We are all too aware of gender-based violence in South Africa, but for some people who haven't been through it, let's look at what came out again, at what women are facing and what it means when they are not protected and they don't get justice down the line.
Good evening. Yes, we have a very serious problem. The President has declared it a national emergency, which is a good thing for us. We have political support now for addressing with this issue, but it hasn't stemmed the high rates of rape, of sexual abuse, of domestic violence, and femicide in particular in our country. We are gravely concerned about the growing rates of these scourges within our society, in spite of all the work that we've been doing over several years.
Is this embarrassing for government, do you think? I mean, we're always talking about GBV as the scourge. This UN committee came and said we're not doing basic things like letting women go to safe houses set up by the state. That's being left to NGOs, and they're not even receiving the funds that they need.
Well, I think what we've seen over the last 2 years after the total shutdown campaign is a remarkably improved response to gender-based violence. We have a declaration on violence against women. We have a very powerful national strategic plan on violence against women. We have a gender-based fund. All of this has shifted from where we were. That report was based on information in 2013. It is now 2021, and so much has changed for us in the country. However, we are only at the start of implementing the National Strategic Plan on Gender-Based Violence, which we believe will address comprehensively and holistically the problem that we have. In the past, it's been ad hoc, and it hasn't been anchored firmly at a political level within our parliament, within our state structures. Now it is. So we have a new opportunity to move forward. I think what's important about this report is that it gives us granular information on where the rights violations are. Now, I think this is a really important moment, because all states try to put in the mechanisms to address human rights and to bring equality into their societies, but we don't always have the granular analysis of how to make those shifts and changes. What this report does, it gives the state an opportunity to look at the specific areas where it can strengthen its responses. It's not something that's it's not a shame on the country. It's actually the fact that the country has opened up and said, come in, have a look, help us to change the responses. That is a big positive. Yeah. So I think I like to look at this from a positive perspective, because the moment that we have now is different to what it has been 5 years, 10 years, and 15 years ago. And I've been in this space for 25 years. So I've seen the changes. And for me, this is a change where we have hope. The problem is in the implementation. Are we going to really look at this report? Are we going to take the recommendations on board? Are we going to pick and choose those recommendations? That is where the rub will lie. We have to be committed. We have to be analytical, and we have to be sincere and intentional about making those changes. And it won't change if we don't do that. Yeah. We have a moment now when we can make those significant changes.
So it's good to know that you are seeing things change. Are you optimistic? I mean, this is a specific thing, and to me it's so important. Women who want to get away from men who abuse them are sometimes scared that those men will track them down, kill them, kill their children. So you need safe houses. So are you optimistic that in a few years we will have those basic things in place that this committee is saying is not there and is a fundamental violation of women's rights?
Absolutely. The fund is going to be there now to be able to support work. I think we're also seeing that the recommendations are to support the work of NGOs. I think that the work of NGOs is often undervalued, and that needs to change. It needs to be recognized for the important work they're doing. So there is a shelter movement here. It needs to be properly funded, and then it can provide the support that women need. But it's not the only intervention. The problem I have with a lot of the interventions we have is about looking after the survivors. We have to prevent it. Prevention is where the money has to go. The prevention of changing the social norms in our society, changing the status of women. We have to advance gender equality for violence against women to be eliminated. And we have to work on those things concurrently. We work on one. Dealing with the survivors is a critical intervention, but it's too late. The violence has already happened. The prevention part of it is important. The training of the police, the training of all judicial officers, ensuring the due diligence principles are kept by every single state actor. That becomes the important issues. And how we then work to educate communities, societies, men and women, to make the changes to value the lives of women, to value the contributions they make, to raise their status in society. That is where we should be focusing a lot of our attention and our resources.
It sounds like less than 1 in 10 protection orders that are asked for are granted. I mean, that's alarming to me. But we're running out of time, so I want you to answer this. One of the recommendations here is something that we talk about. Patriarchal attitudes have to be dealt with, things that are seeped into cultures in South Africa. I mean, that's a recommendation, but how do you do it?
Well, this is what I'm talking about when I speak about prevention. You have to go deeper into our communities, beyond awareness raising, beyond campaigns. We have to really sit and grapple with. We have to introduce it into the curricula at schools. We have to introduce it into all of the training that we do at a professional level. We have to deal with tradition, with culture, with religion, with all of these very, very deeply grounded issues where patriarchy is embedded, where it is protected. And I think that it's a big ask, because nowhere in the world has this really been tackled to great effect. But we have an opportunity, and I think we're starting to make those inroads. We have different institutions in our country, such as the Moral Regeneration Movement. If we put energy and vitality and resources into that, if there's an opportunity, if we work with our religious and cultural leaders to change their perceptions, they then have ready audiences that they can work with. So it's got to be a whole of society approach. That's one of the big things that we don't do, is we work in silos. If we talk, as the National Strategic Plan does, about a whole of society approach, we will start to see things shifting. And I think we need to work from a very young age with children, with girls and with boys, and then take that right through the continuum of their lifespans.
All right, we have to leave it there, Doctor, but thank you for your time tonight. Dr. Lesley Ann Foster, who's a board member of the GBV Response Fund established by the President. Well, on the back of